Hello and welcome to News9 Mediaverse. My name is Brijesh Pandey. Day one of the first phase of the election in Chhattisgarh and Mizoram has ended. These are important phases for what is being dubbed the semi-finals of 2024 general election. In 2018, Congress won 19 out of the 20 assembly seats in the Naxal-affected Bastar and Durg division. Remember, this is the division which went for vote today. And today, this area saw as many as 6 Naxal attacks in which several security personnel were injured. There you can see Amit Jogi casting their vote, all the long queues, which is a very healthy sign personally, to show people's faith in the Indian democracy. All the big leaders are casting their vote. This counter is in Sukma, Chhattisgarh. And that ink is perhaps, one of the surest sign of people's faith in Indian democracy, and how irrespective of how powerful you are, if you're not doing work, every 5 years, you have to change to make way for somebody who either promises better and promises to perform better. This is an election, this is a voting area in Bhanpuri, Chhattisgarh. And one of the new things which has come out, voter selfie point to encourage as many new voters as possible. Today, Chief Minister Bhupesh Baghel and other important leaders cast their vote in an election that had the shadow of Mahadev writ large over it. Hence the title Mahadev to Mizoram. There you can see, they're not as big as line as I would have hoped for. Yeah, this is a much better line. Till now, till 5 o'clock, 70%, what we've been given to understand is 70% voter turnout has, in fact, 70% voter turnout has taken place so far, which is much ahead than 2008, where the first phase saw 53%, and then later on we saw 75%. A bit less, but I think in another 30 to 45 minutes we'll get to know for sure as to what is the exact percentage of people who have voted for in the first phase of election. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today launched a fierce attack, and I think I must say that this has been going on for a while now. Last 4-5 days have seen massive attack by all the top guns of the BJP, and Prime Minister was no exception. Once again today he launched a fierce attack on the Congress party. He blamed the Congress party for the rise of Naxalism and terrorism in the state of Chhattisgarh.
कांग्रेस की एक और बड़ी नाकामी भी रही है। जब जब कांग्रेस सरकार में आती है, तब तब देश में आतंकवादियों और नक्सलियों के हौसले बढ़ जाते हैं। जहां भी देखो, इधर कभी बम फूटने की खबर आती है, कभी उधर बम फूटने की खबर आती है, कभी यहां मार दिया काट दिया की खबर आती है, कभी यहां मार दिया काट दिया की खबर आती थी। जिस राज्य में कांग्रेस सत्ता में होती है, वहां अपराध का, लूटपाट का राज ही चलता है। कांग्रेस सरकार नक्सल हिंसा को काबू करने में असफल रही है। बीते कुछ समय में भाजपा के अनेक कार्यकर्ताओं को हमसे छीना गया है। अभी भी कुछ दिन पहले हमारे एक साथी को गोली मार करके उसकी जीवन तबाह कर दिया। इसलिए भाइयों बहनों, क्या ये बम बंदूक के साये में जीना है क्या? ये बम बंदूक के साये में जीना है क्या? कितना ही पैसा क्यों न हो, बेटा शाम को घर न लौटे और बेटे की लाश घर पे आए, उन पैसों का क्या करेंगे हम लोग? और इसलिए भाइयों बहनों, हर किसी की सुरक्षा बहुत जरूरी है, और इसलिए कांग्रेस को हटाना उतना ही जरूरी है। हटाओगे? बिल्कुल साफ कर दोगे? हर कोने में से हटाओगे? हर पोलिंग बूथ में से हटाओगे? पक्का हटाओगे? आज सरगुजा संभाग में कानून व्यवस्था की क्या स्थिति है, ये आप अच्छी तरह जानते हैं। कांग्रेस सरकार में सरगुजा क्षेत्र में मानव तस्करी और नशे का कारोबार बेतहाशा बढ़ गया है। यहां बहनों बेटियों को अपराधी निशाना बना रहे हैं। हमारे आदिवासी परिवारों की, गरीब परिवारों की अनेक बच्चियां गायब हुई हैं। बेटियां कहां गई, इसका कांग्रेस के नेताओं के पास कोई जवाब नहीं है।
The Prime Minister also hit out at the Congress party, saying that for their greed of filling their coffers, they are not even sparing Mahadev. It was a direct reference to the Mahadev betting scam, which has caused a massive upheaval as far as the politics of Chhattisgarh is concerned, with all kind of charges and counter charges being leveled against BJP and the Congress party. Chief Minister Bhupesh Baghel and Priyanka Gandhi hit back at the Prime Minister and asked him why the BJP or why the centre is not arresting the main culprit.
एक तरफ भाजपा का संकल्प पत्र है तो दूसरी तरफ कांग्रेस का झूठ का कारोबार। आप सभी को कांग्रेस ने विश्वासघात के सिवाय कुछ नहीं दिया है। कांग्रेस ने छत्तीसगढ़ के युवाओं को क्या क्या सपने दिखाए थे और दिया क्या? उन्होंने महादेव के नाम पर भी घोटाला कर दिया। महादेव के नाम पर महादेव सट्टेबाजी घोटाले की चर्चा आज देश और विदेश में हो रही है। कांग्रेस ने अपनी तिजोरी भरने के लिए आपके बच्चों से सट्टेबाजी करवाई है। क्या इनको माफ करेंगे क्या आप? आपके बच्चों को बर्बाद करने वाला काम ऐसे लोगों को माफ करोगे आप? और ये सब किसके इशारे पर हुआ? किसके इशारे पर हुआ? किसके इशारे पर हुआ? उनको सजा मिलनी चाहिए कि नहीं मिलनी चाहिए? पहले सजा आप दोगे कि नहीं दोगे? कमल के निशान पर बटन दबा करके कड़ी से कड़ी सजा ऐसे लोगों को करनी है भाइयों। मुख्यमंत्री कार्यालय यहां सट्टेबाजों का अड्डा कैसे बना हुआ था? और ये कक्का आपका, सब लोग तो कहते हैं 30% कक्का, 30% कक्का, खुलेआम सट्टा।
जिसके पास पैसा पकड़ा गया वो रमन सिंह के साथ उसका फोटो है, उसके पार्षद है, उसके बड़े करीबी हैं, भाजपा कार्यकर्ता, उसके यहां पकड़ा गया। और भाजपा जो नेता है उसके रिश्तेदार की गाड़ी है ना। और दूसरी बात यह है कि जो परसों तक के कोई नहीं जानता था, क्या नाम है उसका, शुभम, वो अचानक पूरे महादेव का मालिक बन गया। उसके पहले ईडी खुद उसको अधिकारी बता रहे थे एक दिन पहले, अब वो मालिक बन गया। और ऐसा मालिक गजब का है भाई, जो अपने नौकर की शादी में 250 करोड़ रुपया खर्चा करता है। मैं तो दुनिया में ये पहली उदाहरण होगा। तो ये एक्चुअल में है क्या कि ये रमन सिंह के साथ जो 2 अधिकारी और रहते थे ना, ये इसी प्रकार की स्टोरी बनाते थे। वही स्टोरी अभी दिखाई दे रहा है। तो ये पूरा प्लांटेड है। इसका मतलब है भारतीय जनता पार्टी हार मान चुकी है। ये उनका आखिरी अस्त्र था कि जिसको उन्होंने चलाया। अब ये फुसफुसिया बम साबित हुआ। कोई इसको मान नहीं रहा है, कोई सुन नहीं रहा है, और जो भी देखा है वो बोले ये तो प्लांटेड है। तो मैंने कल भी कहा था, मजा लीजिए 17 तारीख।
आपकी जो संपत्ति है वो बड़े बड़े उद्योगपतियों को दी जा रही है। जो बड़े बड़े कंपनियां, जो सरकारी कंपनियां बनी थी, जिनको पीएसयू कहते हैं, उनसे कितने रोजगार मिलते थे? सब वही रोजगार चाहते थे। एक जमाने में चाहते थे कि प्राइवेट में नहीं, सरकार में हमारी नौकरी हो जाए, हम सुरक्षित हो जाएंगे। आज वो कंपनियां कहाँ हैं? वो तो देश की अमानत थी, देश की संपत्ति थी, आपकी थी वो भी। आज कहाँ है? सब प्राइवेट कर दी गई है। और किसको दी गई हैं? बड़े बड़े उद्योगपतियों को, कौड़ियों के दाम में बेची गई हैं। ज्यादातर अडानी जी को दी गई हैं। जितनी भी बंदरगाह हैं, जितने हवाई अड्डे हैं, जितनी बड़ी कंपनियां हैं, ज्यादातर इन लोगों को सरकार ने दे दी। तो ये सरकार आपसे पैसे छीनती है, आपकी संपत्ति का इस्तेमाल करती है और बड़े बड़े उद्योगपतियों को दे देती है।
And you to discuss with me what are the stacks like, and also what does whether Mahadev app scam will have any kind of bearing on the election or the results in Chhattisgarh. I'm joined by Neerja Chaudhary, is a senior journalist. I'm also joined by Avdesh Kumar Malik, who's a senior journalist, and he'll be joining me from Chhattisgarh. I'm also joined by Lal Ramluni, who's a political analyst and assistant professor. She's from Faith College, Aizawl, Mizoram. I'll be coming to you, ma'am, a bit later, when we'll be discussing the state of Mizoram. Neerja, ma'am, I would like to, I would want to understand from you, there have been a lot of sparks flying in the last 1 week over Mahadev app scam, so much so like that, if you borrow the example, Bajrangbali was there in Karnataka, and I think in the last 1 week or 10 days, we have seen Mahadev app scam lording over it, and then, Prime Minister in his inimitable style talking about, the 20% kakka and how he's allowing others, to play this betting app. Do you see this particular app scam having any kind of bearing whatsoever on the election results in Chhattisgarh, ma'am?
Yes, you're absolutely right. The Prime Minister, in his inimitable style, in the final push to the campaign, trying to make up for the shortcomings of the state leadership. We saw him there, and certainly in the Mahadev scam. Mahadev scam, I visited Chhattisgarh about a week ago. Mahadev scam, it was talked about as one of the corruption charges against the government, and the BJP was making an issue with. But the Prime Minister has given it a new pitch, by the way he has done it. But what the BJP could have gained from the anti-incumbency of the last 5 years against the Baghel government, which is there. There are plus points of the Baghel government that many people talk about, and there are the minuses, and corruption is one of them. But the BJP got into the act very, very late, and everybody says that. And, Raman Singh was not seen. I remember talking in Delhi so many times, where is Raman Singh? Why is he gone under the radar? And suddenly he's resurfaced. He's got the ticket from Rajnandgaon, where he belongs. Many of his people, many of his followers, ministers in the last government of the BJP, they have been renominated. But again, I say it has come at the very, very end, after Bhupesh Baghel had set the agenda for this election. And that, in my view, can be summed up in 2 words. It is Kisani,
okay,
and it is Chhattisgarhiyat.
Kisani and Chhattisgarh.
Chhattisgarhi identity, which has taken many, many forms. Yes. It includes building a mandir in the name of Lord Ram's mother, Kaushalya. It's being made into, I went there, it's it's under construction, it's a bhavya kind of mandir, it's going to be. So, Bhupesh Baghel again announced a loan waiver for the farmers. And that went, again, I was at that meeting where he announced it in Sakti. And that meeting was a few thousand people under a shamiana, normal kind of meeting, Chief Minister trying to get another term, and people there waiting for it. People had come from the different parts around. And the moment he announced it, there was some, current that goes through the farmers. And next day traveling, I found that this was under Charcha and wherever you went. So that, and also what he's given in terms of MSP plus bonus for dhan, and that is 2,800 rupees a quintal. Now the BJP announced better rates than that. 3,100 is what they announced to upstage the Congress. But again, it's come too late. I don't know what the impact of that is actually. But I feel it has come too late. and several factors were, many people, young people said, Baghel ne theek kiya hai, hum inko vote denge. But I must tell you this, both in Rajasthan and in Chhattisgarh, many of the younger people I talked to said, is baar hum denge गहलोत को, बघेल को, बड़े चुनाव में नरेंद्र मोदी को. So that also is a factor, you know. I don't believe, for instance, this is a semi-final, because the way people vote here
absolutely
may not be the way people vote in 2024.
Absolutely. I think, I mean, you made a very interesting point, ma'am, when you talk about, you know, how you spoke to young people and they said that they will vote for Gehlot. So we'll pick your brains on that on 25th when Rajasthan will go to poll. But ma'am, do you think that, you know, you talked about Raman Singh. Do you think that, you know, Raman Singh, who was, you know, one of the biggest BJP leader, the tallest BJP leader in the state of Chhattisgarh, all of a sudden he did a vanishing act, and it looked like, you know, the party was also not very keen to prop him up as a credible alternative to Bhupesh Baghel. Why do you think, ma'am, that this has happened?
You know, this is a question one has been asking. Why?
Okay.
Now, it's possible, you see, that the high command of the BJP may feel we need a replacement to Raman Singh for whatever reason. We need to have a new chair come forth. And this is also true in Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. Shivraj Chauhan is led the campaign. Vasundhara Raje has been accommodated. And ordinary people used to say that if Vasundhara Raje is accommodated and projected as the face of the campaign and the party is going to win in Rajasthan. Anyway, she has been accommodated. But are there the chehras for CM-ship? No, they have not been declared as such. So, if not, and if Raman Singh is not to be the CM candidate, if the party were to win, then who is the candidate of the party? That is the question that remains unanswered. And had that new person been projected, say, 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it might have been a very different campaign led by
Absolutely.
the BJP. And it's ironical that while the BJP has a very clear leader in Narendra Modi nationally, and it makes a point of that the India alliance opposed to the NDA does not have a clear leadership face. But in the state
In the
elections,
states, it's a different story.
No, it's a complete reverse. The BJP doesn't have clear leaders. The Congress has clear leaders. Kamal Nath, Gehlot, and Baghel.
Absolutely.
So I think that I don't know whether it's going to, that may hurt the BJP, I feel.
I mean, that's a very interesting point that, you know, when BJP takes immense pride in decisive leadership at the national level, the same is completely missing at the state levels. You know, I'm also joined by Avdesh Kumar Malik, is the senior journalist, and he's joining us from Chhattisgarh. Avdesh ji, you know, I would like to ask you this question. Do you see Mahadev betting app having any kind of impact on the electoral result of the state of Chhattisgarh, or do you feel that it is going to go what happened during you know, the Karnataka election, where there was a lot of talk about Bajrang Bali and how the Congress has insulted Bajrang Bali and a hyper pitch election fought on it, but it simply fizzled?
Actually, I just want to say that the corruption is not a major issue in Chhattisgarh polls. Either anybody agree or not agree, but the fact is, because even in the previous polls, you see in 2018 elections, the Congress vehemently campaigned against Raman Singh about that he has indulged in Panama paper leak and Augusta Westland job. He has a hands in Augusta Westland job scam and several other scams and PDA scams, and finally Raman Singh won. So again, here in the Mahadev betting app, I don't think it is going to make a major impact right now, because the scenes which is coming before the public and even the chief minister and the Congress, the way they are defending, the way they are saying, we are the first who has taken initiative on the Mahadev betting and finally registered cases, and so some sorts they are definitely able to make a little bit confusion among the minds of the public, especially the voters. So
corruption?
Somehow they,
okay, corruption will not have a, yeah, please go ahead, please.
So again, I'm coming to your point. So I'm saying that the corruption is no major issue, because even in the previous polls, The one minister is called Brijesh Baghel. He is agriculture minister and cultural minister in the BJP times, and he was charged by Congress party. He has amassed a lot of wealth. There is a Kunki Ghotala. It is basically about making incursion on the tribal land and forest land and all sorts about that. Again, that won't make any major issue and so, as far as we are seeing here is what makes the sense here is that the direct benefit transfer, which is making inroads in the minds of the public here, and definitely as far as the paddy politics is concerned, it is the Raman Singh who started this in the beginning. He started from paddy, and he started giving bonus. And he started claiming that. He is continuously making efforts in raising the MSP, and finally, when he failed to provide bonus for last two in the last elections for last 2 years, there is outrage from the agrarian community, and basically all the farmers organizations have protested against him. We have reported, and we have seen the rallies against him, and finally. You see, when the elections come, he lost the elections. He not especially my concern that the BJP lost the elections, and they are not predicting that such thing is going to happen. Here, what happens in the Baghel case, despite there is a rift between the central government and state government about the paddy politics, about the bonus, the central government has finally denied to give the bonus.
But Mr. Malik, I'm sorry, I'm cutting you. I just want to understand one more thing. With the question which I just asked Nirja, what explains the absence of or complete removal of Raman Singh? He was chief minister for 2 terms, and it was not like that BJP Chhattisgarh saw an emergence of a taller leader or somebody, who can fill the shoes of Raman Singh. But what explains his near disappearing act? He was pushed upstairs, but we all know how it pans out.
Yeah, three things happened there.
Okay.
One, in the last elections, there was a difference between the workers and the leaders. So the workers are not quite very happy, because we have seen in the elections, we have seen that the BJP workers used to go in the voters' households, and they convince, and they used to take out the voters to the polling stations. In the last elections, such thing not happened. Even there is a differences with the RSS cadres. So finally, it will take toll when there are elections, and finally they lost. This is the one factor. Second one is it is about the paddy politics. The Raman Singh failed to give any assurance to the farmer community, and he failed to explain why he has cut the bonus. So finally, this makes inroads when. And there is lots of anti-incumbency against Baghel government also. Sorry, basically Raman Singh government that time. So the differences and the paddy politics is finally making roads here. And last hour, the police action taken by the BJP government that time had made Baghel as a hero, and he able to garner that sympathy from the public, and finally the collective outcome was the Baghel that time was state president of Congress party here, and finally he became the chief minister. But at the time we have seen when there used to be a rally basically called by the Congress. Baghel has very less voters, the cadres in his support. I can you say that even in Raipur, I'm just saying that just before the 2000 election, 3 months before the 2000 elections, we have counted. There is a rally in Raipur, and finally the rally is going to Gherao of the Vidhan Sabha. And finally, we have seen their only supporters to Baghel, you can count 120, not more than 120. And of the 1,000 and 1,500 of Satyanarayan Sarma supporters, and present the mayor of the Raipur has his supporters. So from zero to hero in Raipur. The
Okay.
Bhupesh Baghel cultivated his name or his he
Okay.
continues to climb the ladders from his schemes, and finally he just get an idea about what the people required. He basically he used nowadays also he basically you see in Baghel engaged in farming, so he has a very good idea
Okay,
what
okay. I'll come to you of this. I would like to ask Neeraji one more question, ma'am. There have been inter-party trouble in the state of Chhattisgarh for the last 3 years. We saw a show of strength by Bhupesh Singh Baghel, by getting several MLAs to Delhi. We saw what T.S. Singh Dev said that he was promised 2.5 years of chief ministership. There was a decent degree of hostility to Bhupesh Baghel's style of politics. But what makes Bhupesh Baghel, according to you, what makes Bhupesh Baghel tick? You have been on the ground. Why is he still indispensable to the Congress scheme of things, ma'am?
It's very interesting. It's been very fascinating to track the rise of Bhupesh Baghel. I would say in some ways slow and maybe not meteoric, but very slow and steady rise. Because almost the entire leadership of the Congress had been wiped out, if you remember, in the Naxal attack.
Absolutely.
10 years ago. Very, very violent Naxal attack. So Bhupesh Baghel's rise comes after that. And you're right, when the Congress party won in 2018 and won very handsomely in Chhattisgarh, there were 4 candidates for CM-ship. And then finally 2, T.S. Singh Dev and Bhupesh Baghel. And between them and the leadership, it was decided that they will get 2.5 years, each of them. And then Bhupesh Baghel continued. And there was a lot of factionalism and infighting in the party for this. And T.S. Singh Dev was sulking and not happy at all. Till very recently, a few months ago, when under the leadership of Mallikarjun Kharge, they seemed to have settled that difference. Now, this happened in Chhattisgarh between T.S. Singh Dev and Baghel. Baghel offered Singh Dev deputy chief ministership, which she accepted. So we went into a power sharing formula. It happened in Rajasthan between Sachin Pilot, again, who had been promised CM-ship, and it was not delivered to him. And he was, hitting the road several times, mobilizing people. And between Gehlot and him, there was Shanti. And also in Madhya Pradesh, of course, it's a little better. Kamal Nath was the face of the campaign, and Digvijay Singh seemed to accept that. Now, it's Chhattisgarh, the question you asked. Somewhere Bhupesh Baghel has emerged as a very senior, politically savvy, I would say even crafty in political terms, leader, and OBC. And OBC factor is going to be one of the factors in this election at the subterranean level, if not overtly. Even overtly, people talk about OBC hain ye. Raman Singh is not an OBC, and somewhere, and Singh Dev, of course, is not an OBC. So we will see the rise of OBC politics increasingly in the states of India as well as nationally. Now, what I didn't see the demand for a caste census raised by the Congress as an issue in every state. Bihar has already gone in for it. Nitish Kumar has made a very interesting statement today that, that the reservation should be increased to 65% for the SC/STs and the OBCs. That means increasing the quota for the OBCs from 27% upwards. 65% this and 10% for the economically weaker section would take the quota to 75%.
Yes, ma'am. In fact, I would like to tell you.
It isn't going to reflect now in the coming, the next phases.
Next phase,
the OBC factor. Yeah. And I think Baghel has gained because of that factor also, apart from what he's done on the farmers' front. Kisani has been a very important thing, giving a loan waiver to the Kisans, increased bonus, and so on. And
Yes.
BJP is tried now in the last, absolutely the last leg to upstage him. But how much it will work, I don't know on the ground.
Okay. I mean, the Prime Minister also spoke about it, and we'll play at the end of, after this program gets over, we'll play the soundbite of what the Prime Minister has to say on the caste census. Meanwhile, Mizoram, the other crucial state that went to poll today, is being seen as a reflection of how badly the BJP has been dented by the violence in Manipur. MNF, which is in power and also part of the BJP-led NEDA, Northeast Democratic Alliance, not only hardened its stance against what was happening in the state of Manipur, but also maintained a safe distance from even the Prime Minister by refusing to share a common dais. Though, I must say that BJP is not a big player in the state. But there are many who believe that, what happened in Manipur may boomerang on it and may be detrimental to the BJP's outreach to Christians in other parts of the country, as Mizoram is a Christian majority state, and Mizoram is traditionally a two-party system where Congress and MNF are the principal parties. But in the last election, ZPM replaced the Congress party as the principal party. Let's listen into what Zoramthanga, the Chief Minister of Mizoram, has to say, and then I'll go to Rami Niranjan Desai and F. Lal Ramluni, who's a political analyst, to discuss what the election in Mizoram means.
Well, I have cast my vote and I have visited half of my constituency also. And I believe that from the political atmospheres and of this voting day, I believe that we shall be able to form the government. And in my constituency, in the East 1, we hope we shall be having an overwhelming victory. Well, this time we have finished only one term. So normally, at least, they had the 2 terms, 10 years. But anyhow, this is not the most important. The most important is how you perform during your government. So during this, even in the COVID period, we have performed very well, and I believe that people appreciated it, and we shall be able to form the government. I certainly believe that we shall be able to form the government on our own, not of any coalition type.
He's always saying his dream.
This way something also.
He's saying his dream. Then.
But will it come reality?
No, I don't think. He will not come again.
What the people's...
It seems from the movement of the people, the same government will not come again, because anti-incumbency wave is very much at this time.
But the start was not a glitch-free start for Zoramthanga. When in the morning he went to cast his vote, the EVM malfunctioned, and then he has to come back again, to cast his vote because of the malfunctioning of EVM. And to discuss more on what the voting and what are the issues which will have an impact, either only limited to northeastern states or will have no impact at all, I am joined by F. Lal Ramluni, who is a political analyst and assistant professor. Ma'am, my extreme apologies right at the start if I have mispronounced your name. So do let me know what exactly is the correct pronunciation of your surname, ma'am.
Yes, Brijesh, you are right in pronouncing my name. Yes.
My God. Thank you so much. I take it as a big compliment. And Rami Niranjan Desai, author and scholar, Northeast region. Rami, welcome to News9 Live. Ma'am, first I would like to ask you, we saw, Zoramthanga being very hard on what happened in the state of Manipur, very vociferously speaking against what is happening. Do you see, Zoramthanga being politically benefited from what happened in the state of Manipur? Did it had a maximum impact in the elections of Mizoram, or are we reading too much into it, ma'am?
Okay. Yes. The issue in Manipur and the stand of the MNF party has some extent benefited the MNF party, but if they win this election, this cannot be the sole factor. Okay, it has benefited the MNF party in some way, but when we look at the larger picture that of the overall election, that the anti-incumbency wave is pretty strong this time. And this is just one term which the MNF government has served as in the government. And usually the political trend is that the ruling party usually serve 2 terms. They rule for 10 years. Either it's the Congress or the MNF. And this time that the third front, known as the ZPM, which is a very young political party, have gained a very strong hold among the masses, especially to the rural masses and the neutral voters. One thing is that the ruling party have been alleged of mismanaging the funds, and the corruption and misgovernance is one of the main issue in the state election this time. The MNF economic policy of SEDP, Socio-Economic Development Program, which they promise to deliver free cash up to 2 lakhs, has not been fulfilled by the government this time. Many of the BPL families are not benefiting these schemes, and it has been alleged that it has not been distributed in a transparent manner. There is favoritism, and even among the party workers, and even among within the party, that it says that there is favoritism within the party as well. So all these are the emerging causes, the big factor which swing the voters' mood towards the third front, that is the ZPM. And since the month of the Myanmar refugee influx issue since last year, and the aftermath May 3rd issue in Manipur, that this issue has uplifted the status of the MNF and Mizoram Thanga's government at some extent. But I'm saying that this cannot be the sole factor or for which the MNF could win the election or they could lose the election this time. Mismanagement of the government fund and corruption is one of the main issue that have in this election.
Okay, Rami, one of the key talk was that how the government is, that this entire violence in Manipur has given kind of a shot in arm for Zoram Thanga, who was on a slightly sticky wicket. Do you see, his decision of not sharing a dais with the Prime Minister and maintaining a complete distance from the BJP is something which will not only help him, but also the BJP, in the sense that it will ensure that the Congress will not be able to make a comeback in the state?
Brijesh, good evening. I think the lady before me really summed the situation up really well, and I have to agree with her that Zoram Thanga has milked this situation with Manipur as much as he could, but it will have a limited impact. It is to say the least, a very interesting election, because it's for the first time it's kind of triangular if you look at it. There's the MNF, there is ZPM, there's the Congress trying its luck again, and there is the BJP with like a really, really great manifesto. So everything that was mentioned and all the concerns which was mentioned by the earlier panelists, in terms of corruption, in terms of other social issues, have all been addressed in the manifesto. So he is really against a hard pitch. If you look at the manifesto of the BJP, let me say this first. It mentions things like Mizoram first. It talks about it's a very well thought out sort of mandate. It talks about including Mizo ethics in its governance. It talks about resolving the border issues between Assam and Mizoram, which has been a long-standing issue. It talks about ensuring a drug-free Mizoram. Again, something that we've known for a really long time. And that there has been an access of this drug trade that has shifted via Mizoram. And that is a great concern. They've done a great job under the central scheme of giving direct debit money to peasants. I think it's about 8,000 rupees per farmer. They've also promised a huge amount of money for government schools, for healthcare. They've also not left women behind, Brijesh, which is really, really important in a state like this. They've announced 1.5 lakh for every girl child, and like Madam said earlier on, corruption is a main issue. They've addressed that also. They've said that there will be an SIT for accountable governance for this SEDP issue. So therefore, I don't think him separating himself from the prime minister or not wanting to share the stage, is really going to benefit him, because he's against a rock and a hard place. And I think that is something that he has realized as well. What will be interesting, in my opinion, in this election would be to look at the Congress as well, because, really, this was the last battle that they had in the Northeast, and they are also, from what I have seen, they have also been a little nervous about, what is going to happen. Is there going to be a coalition with ZPM? Is there going to be, something else that's going to happen? So, how Congress is going to fare is also going to be an interesting thing to watch.
Okay, I'll just go to F. Lal Ramli for a quick comment on the point which has just been raised by Rami. Ma'am, do you see Congress resurgence? Do you see Congress being a player at all in the state of Manipur? A quick comment, because post that, we'll have to go to Prime Minister's speech where he's talking about the caste politics.
Yes, this time the Congress will not. The Congress is not a key player this time, and as far as the performance and the mandate of people is concerned, or the voice of people is concerned, that the Congress has secured the third position. Below the MNF and below the MNF and there's a PM. So I don't think that they will be a key player in this election. But one thing which the Congress has been manifesting in this election is about they are the true torchbearer of secularism in the country, which is a secure ideology for the Christian minorities. So this could be the selling factor for the Congress. But I don't think that can be the emerging issue for the Congress to come back to power. They are not in a position. They are not that have enough strength to come back to power at this point of time.
So much.
Yeah, can I add one more point there?
Please.
And also that the rising of the BJP towards the minority communities is a very interesting political development in this time, that the BJP has gained a very strong hold in the Autonomous District Council area of the Maras in the Saiha district, and towards the Takmas and the Bruce in the southern part of Mizoram, as well as in the western part of Mizoram. So right now the BJP has one seat in the Legislative Assembly, but they secured to get more this time, and they are bargaining hard to make sure that coalition government will be formed, and they are a part in that coalition government.
Thank you so much. Rami Niranjan Desai, for joining in for this fascinating discussion. And let's listen into what the Prime Minister Narendra Modi has to say in a rally in Telangana, where he spoke about caste census. As Nitish Kumar, it seems, once again has raised the caste census issue, which has ruffled many political feathers. Let's listen into Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
तेलंगाना के कोने कोने से आए हैं और अपने साथ एक स्पष्ट संदेश भी लाए हैं। तेलंगाना का विश्वास अब बीजेपी पर है। हमारे बीसी साथी हो, गरीब हो, दलित हो, एसटी एससी भाई बहन हो, सभी ने तेलंगाना में परिवर्तन का मन बना लिया है। पिछले 9 वर्षों से यहां तेलंगाना में विकास विरोधी, बीसी विरोधी, एससी एसटी विरोधी सरकार है। इस 30 नवंबर को आप लोगों के पास तेलंगाना की बीसी विरोधी सरकार को उखाड़ फेंकने का बेहतरीन अवसर है। अब तेलंगाना में कमल ही कमल खिले, ये आपको सुनिश्चित करना है। ना कुटुंब सभ्युलारा, तेलंगाना का गठन 3 मुद्दों पर हुआ था। पानी, पैसा और रोजगार, नीलू, निधुलू और नियामकालू। इन तीनों मुद्दों पर जन विरोधी सरकार ने तेलंगाना के लोगों के साथ धोखा हुआ है। अलग तेलंगाना राज्य के आंदोलन में हमारे बीसी भाई बहनों की बहुत बड़ी भूमिका थी। वो आंदोलन में सबसे आगे थे। अलग राज्य के लिए हमारे कितने ही साथी शहीद हो गए थे, लेकिन तेलंगाना बनने के बाद यहां ही सरकार ने सबसे बड़ा धोखा हमारे बीसी साथियों के साथ ही किया। यहां की सरकार ने बीसी हितों की लगातार उपेक्षा की। तेलंगाना में इतनी बड़ी ओबीसी, एससी, एसटी आबादी है, लेकिन उनकी आकांक्षाओं पर बीआरएस ने कभी ध्यान नहीं दिया। वो अपने परिवार में ही लगा रहा। यहां तो बीआरएस की 2 टीमें तो साफ दिखती हैं, एक पर्दे के पीछे सी टीम भी है। ये कांग्रेस का सी है ना, ये सी बीआरएस की सी टीम है। एक कांग्रेस बीआरएस की सी टीम है। बैकवर्ड क्लास की आकांक्षाएं कांग्रेस के भी एजेंडे में शामिल नहीं है। कांग्रेस और बीआरएस दोनों के ही डीएनए में 3 बातें कॉमन है। एक, परिवारवाद, दूसरा भ्रष्टाचार और तीसरा तुष्टीकरण। इन परिवारवादी पार्टियों के संरक्षण में भ्रष्टाचार फलता है, फूलता है और अवसर भी सिर्फ और सिर्फ नाते रिश्तेदारों को ही मिलता है। परिवारवाद की मानसिकता से चलने वाली बीआरएस और कांग्रेस यहां कभी भी किसी बीसी को सीएम नहीं बनने देगी। साथियों, ये एनडीए है, बीजेपी है, जो ओबीसी हितों का सबसे ज्यादा ध्यान रखती है, उन्हें सबसे ज्यादा प्रतिनिधित्व देती है। बीजेपी का हमेशा से ये प्रयास रहा है कि दलित, पीड़ित, शोषित, वंचित, पिछड़े, आदिवासी समुदाय को उचित प्रतिनिधित्व मिलता रहे। जब अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी की सरकार थी, और हमें सेवा करने का मौका मिला तो एपीजे अब्दुल कलाम जी को हमने देश का राष्ट्रपति बनाया। 1996 में जब आदिवासी नेता पीएस संगमा जी का नाम लोकसभा के स्पीकर पद के लिए चुना गया तो अटल जी ने समर्थन का नेतृत्व किया। 2012 में राष्ट्रपति चुनाव में भी बीजेपी ने पीएस संगमा जी के नाम का समर्थन किया। एनडीए ने ही जीएमसी बाल योगी जी को स्पीकर पद के लिए नामित किया था, जो देश के पहले दलित लोकसभा अध्यक्ष बने थे। जब बीजेपी को अवसर मिला तो उसने दलित समुदाय से रामनाथ कोविंद जी को राष्ट्रपति बनाया। जब बीजेपी को मौका मिला तो उसने आदिवासी समुदाय से द्रौपदी मुर्मू जी को राष्ट्रपति बनाया। और यही मैदान है जिसने आदेश दिया था आप लोगों ने, और जब पूर्ण बहुमत बीजेपी को मिला और देश में पूर्ण बहुमत वाली सरकार का पहला ओबीसी प्रधानमंत्री बनाने का आपने मुझे अवसर देकर के एक ओबीसी का सम्मान किया था। और जैसे इसी मैदान से पूर्ण बहुमत वाली सरकार का ओबीसी प्रधानमंत्री पहली बार बना, पूर्ण बहुमत वाली सरकार का बीजेपी का सीएम भी ओबीसी पहली बार यहां बनने वाला है। परिवारवादी पार्टियां कभी किसी दलित, किसी पिछड़े, किसी आदिवासी को आगे नहीं बढ़ने देती, जबकि आज भाजपा देश की एकमात्र पार्टी है जो ओबीसी समुदाय को सबसे ज्यादा प्रतिनिधित्व देती है। केंद्र की एनडीए सरकार में 27 ओबीसी मंत्री है, जो अब आजादी के बाद पहली बार इतनी बड़ी तादाद में ओबीसी मंत्री केंद्र सरकार का नेतृत्व कर रहे हैं। आज देश में बीजेपी के 85 ओबीसी एमपीज है। आज देश में बीजेपी के 365 ओबीसी विधानसभा सदस्य है। आज देश में बीजेपी के 65 ओबीसी विधान परिषद सदस्य है। तेलंगाना में भी बीजेपी अपने बीसी साथियों के हितों का सबसे ज्यादा ख्याल रख सकती है, कोई और पार्टी नहीं कर सकती। आप लोग खुद साक्षी हैं कि यहां तेलंगाना में बैकवर्ड क्लास को आगे बढ़ने के लिए सही संसाधन नहीं दिए जाते। बैकवर्ड क्लास के युवाओं को नौकरी देने में भी तेलंगाना सरकार गंभीर नहीं है। बैकवर्ड क्लास के युवाओं का भी स्किल डेवलपमेंट हो, इस पर भी तेलंगाना सरकार उतना ध्यान नहीं देती। बीसी कल्याण के लिए यहां बीआरएस ने हर साल 1000 करोड़ रुपए का फंड देने का वादा किया था। अब बताइए, क्या इनमें से किसी वादे को पूरा किया क्या? कोई वादा पूरा किया क्या? एक भी वादा पूरा किया क्या? साथियों, कांग्रेस और बीआरएस ने कभी भी पिछड़ा वर्ग को निर्णय लेने का अधिकार नहीं दिया।
Delhi has the fastest growing metro network among G20 nations. From 6 stations in 2002, it today has 286 stations. Reliability, cleanliness and affordability have set the template for other Indian metros. The architect of this modern-day world-class marvel is E. Sridharan. Watch the extraordinary life of Metroman E. Sridharan streaming now on News9 Plus. Download now.
Hamas attacks Israel. Israel Defense Forces strike back at Hamas. As the war unfolds, watch the comprehensive coverage of the Israel war only on News9 Plus. To watch the full story, download the app now.
With all this gear, you must be wondering if I'm climbing a mountain. Well, let me give you a wider look of this place. This is Asia's largest mountain of shame.
A mountain of waste, almost the height of the Qutub Minar.
When you enter capital cities of some of the biggest countries in the world, you don't have 3 garbage mountains waiting to welcome you, depending on whichever side of the city you enter from.
The thing is that a lot of times we talk about landfills only when there's a fire at the landfill. You need to understand that a landfill is at fire almost throughout the year. It's only when the firefighters are not able to douse the fire is when it actually catches the nation's attention, the city's attention, or media attention.
The towering landfills worsen one of Delhi's biggest problems: pollution.
यहाँ पर आप रात को आओ, दिन में आओ, आप 1 घंटे बैठ नहीं सकते बाहर। इतनी धूल, प्रदूषण, महक, आप खाना भी नहीं खा सकते बाहर बैठ के।
Life around the landfill is a curse.
हमारे घर में जो बड़े हैं उन्हें अस्थमा के वो पेशेंट है, आए दिन उनको नेबुलाइजर लगाना पड़ता है।
डॉक्टर ने मुझे ये चीज बोला कि यहाँ का एरिया छोड़ के कहीं और चाहिए।
Delhi's garbage mountains are now a fetid symbol of the national capital's trash problem. The question is, who is to be blamed? Watch Delhi's Garbage Mountains. Streaming on News9 Plus for the Genflix.
BrahMos. Stealthy, lethal, precise. It flies at 3 times the speed of sound and cuts through a warship like a hot knife through butter. China's navy has threatened its neighbors, and they are turning to the BrahMos for protection. The Warship Killer. This and more streaming on world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now.
इंजीनियरिंग कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि सभी लोग कर रहे हैं।
Coaching is now starting from grade 3, 4, 5, 6.
कोटा जाने वाली बीच राह में आधे टेस्ट देके हैं सिलेक्शन की चाह में।
ऑल इंडिया का बच्चा कोटा जाता है।
This rat race is for rats, not for humans. So why should we even be a part of it?
The Rat Race. This and more streaming on world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now.
The following content may contain visuals that are disturbing, graphic, or sensitive in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. This material is intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for all viewers. Please exercise caution while watching, and if you find such content distressing, we recommend discontinuing viewing. This disclaimer is provided to ensure awareness and to prioritize viewer well-being.
Hello and welcome to this brand new edition of Global Lens on News9 Live with me, Neha Khanna, and our focus continues to be on the escalating Israel-Hamas war. Today marks 1 month since the bone-chilling, barbaric and most horrifying terror attacks in Israel's history that killed at least 1,400 Israelis. On the 7th of October, some 3,000 Hamas terrorists launched an unprecedented land, air and sea assault on Israel. What followed next was unthinkable. The terrorists butchered not only soldiers but hundreds of civilians, including the elderly, beheaded babies, brutalized and raped women, paraded them naked and filmed them, posted their videos on the social media, burned some of them alive, tortured entire families before killing them in the most brutal manner imaginable, in their own homes and at a music festival. Some men had their eyes gouged out. Some women had their breasts chopped off. Little children had their legs amputated. This as families were made to watch their loved ones being tortured. And after that dance of death that lasted several hours, the Hamas terrorists took almost 250 people, including foreign nationals, hostage, and they are still being held in Gaza. Holding a national day of mourning, Israelis today held a minute of standing silence to commemorate the victims of the October 7 massacre across southern Israel, with several memorial services being held. The moment of silence was observed without a siren, unlike on Holocaust Remembrance Day and Memorial Day. People sang the Israeli national anthem following this moment of silence. On the completion of 1 month of hostilities between Israel and Hamas, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has made a significant statement. In an interview to ABC News in the United States, Netanyahu said, Israel will have the overall security responsibility in Gaza for an indefinite period after the war ends. He also said that while Israel was open to some tactical pauses in fighting here and there to facilitate the entry of aid, there was simply no question of a general ceasefire till the safe return of all the hostages. Remember, just a couple of weeks ago, Israel's defense minister had claimed that his country had no interest in controlling life in the Gaza Strip once the war was over. More than 10,300 people have now been killed in Gaza since Israel launched its military offensive a month ago. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry in Ramallah, almost 4,300 of these victims were children. Israel has been pounding Gaza for a month now with airstrikes and a ground operation. It claims it is targeting Hamas infrastructure and minimizing civilian deaths. As the global chorus for an immediate ceasefire grows louder every day, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has warned that Gaza is becoming a graveyard for children. This as the UN Security Council, during a private session, failed yet again to reach a consensus on a draft resolution aimed at halting the conflict. On Monday, US President Joe Biden and Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu discussed the potential for pauses in the Israeli military's operations in Gaza, according to the White House. Meanwhile, President Biden's administration has informed the US Congress that it is planning a $320 million transfer of precision bombs for Israel. The French ambassador to the United Nations reiterated his country's demand for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Paris will host an international humanitarian conference for the civilians of Gaza on Thursday. Significantly, Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi spoke to Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday and urged India to use all its capabilities to end the Israeli action in Gaza. The United States has condemned as wholly unacceptable comments by junior Israeli minister Eliyahu, who appeared to suggest an openness to the idea of Israel carrying out a nuclear strike on Gaza. Prime Minister Netanyahu has suspended the minister over these remarks. Meanwhile, on the ground in Gaza, Israel says the Israeli Defense Forces have completely encircled Gaza city. It also says it has exposed a network of Hamas tunnels, command centers and rocket launchers beneath the hospitals in northern Gaza. IDF says Hamas systematically exploits hospitals as part of its war machine. In fact, Israel has released videos of Al-Shifa and 2 other hospitals showing openings within these hospitals to Hamas tunnels. Tel Aviv has also stated that at least 800 rockets fired by Hamas at Israel fell short and landed inside the Gaza Strip, killing many Palestinians in the course of this war. And even as global outrage over the killings of thousands of Palestinians in Gaza grows, there's also anger in Israel. Families of those Israelis who were either killed or kidnapped by Hamas are planning to protest outside the Knesset in Jerusalem to express anger at Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his government. A WhatsApp group for the families posted, and I quote, "Netanyahu did not attend any funerals or shiva, that's wake held for the dead, nor did he call any of the bereaved families. Tomorrow we are coming to him." That's what the message on the group said.
There will be no ceasefire, general ceasefire in Gaza without the release of our hostages. As far as tactical little pauses, an hour here, an hour there, we've had them before. I suppose we'll check the circumstances in order to enable goods, humanitarian goods to come in, or our hostages, individual hostages to leave. But I don't think there's going to be a general ceasefire. It's not that I don't think. I think it will hamper the war effort. It'll hamper our effort to get our hostages out, because the only thing that works on these criminals in Hamas is the military pressure that we're exerting. Those who don't want to continue the way of Hamas, it certainly is not, I think Israel will, for an indefinite period, will have the overall security responsibility, because we've seen what happens when we don't have it. When we don't have that security responsibility, what we have is the eruption of Hamas terror on a scale that we couldn't imagine.
I have just completed a briefing during which I approved IDF plans for operational activities in the Gaza Strip. IDF activities over the past day have been extremely impressive. Coordination between air and ground forces is shaking the Gaza Strip. These efforts result in extraordinary achievements, including strikes on terrorists and their commanders in the field. Just over the past day, we have eliminated both company commanders and battalion commanders, some of whom were expected to fill in for commanders we had eliminated 1 or 2 days prior. The IDF machine is working at full capacity. Hamas leader Sinwar is hiding in his bunker and lets his terrorist commanders die in the field. On our side, the commanders stand at the head of the force, pressing forward, achieving objectives and leading the forces. We are proud of our commanders. We are proud of the IDF soldiers. And we are sending them blessings for luck and congratulations.
Regarding the urgent situation in Israel and Palestine, we agreed to cooperate to work towards a humanitarian pause that will ensure the immediate release of hostages, the safety of civilians, a commitment from all sides to act in accordance with international law, a calming of the current situation, and the improvement of humanitarian conditions.
These 8 flights are the first batch. There will be further flights in the coming weeks, and of course we'll continue this as long as necessary. There is emergency, humanitarian emergency in the Gaza Strip. There is shortage of everything, of water, of food, of medicines, medical equipment, of fuel, and we need to use every tool available that we have in order to provide this necessary assistance.
All right. Joining me on Global Lens tonight to dissect how this war is progressing is Major Dan Pfefferman. He is Israel Defense Forces Executive Director at Sharaka. He joins us live from Israel, and from here in India we're joined by former Indian diplomat Ambassador Suresh K. Goel. Gentlemen, welcome to Global Lens. Major Dan Pfefferman, let me begin with you. Today is exactly 1 month of the horrific terror attacks on Israel, and it's also 1 month of the Israel-Hamas war and the pounding of Gaza. 1 month on, where do you think this war is headed? How is it currently poised? And how many of its stated objectives has Israel managed to achieve?
Thank you for having me on the show. And to be clear, I'm Major in the reserves. I'm not speaking on behalf of the Israeli government or the military in any way. To clarify one important point, this war has not been going on for a month. It's been going on for a month, less than a day, because we need to remind the audiences that it began with a completely unprovoked, massive terrorist attack on Israeli civilians sitting in their homes, in their beds, in peaceful border communities, not on occupied territory, not on disputed territory, except that Hamas considers all of Israel to be occupied land, and makes it very clear that there's no room for ceasefire, there's no room for negotiations, and there's no room for any kind of a long-term possibility of peace with Hamas and with Israel. Israel's goals then became, due to the severity and the brutality of this attack, and that Hamas, in their own words, by their own spokespeople, are saying they will commit these similar attacks time and time and time again until they can either kill every last one of us or kick us out of our country, which they believe is theirs. So a ceasefire is not something that's possible. A ceasefire was in place until through October 6th. A ceasefire has been in place with every round of fighting. And what happens with these ceasefires that the world is calling for is that they're incredibly short-sighted. The world is pained, rightfully pained, by the sight of civilian losses in Gaza. But by forcing ceasefires, it does two things. It ensures that Hamas and other extremist groups can claim a victory, because all they need, all the insurgent, all the guerrilla, the asymmetric enemy needs to claim a victory is to just be alive at the end of the fighting. And secondly, it allows them to rearm and prepare for the next round of fighting, which they launch whenever they see fit. This time on October 7th, it was on a Shabbat, it was on a Jewish holiday when people were getting ready to go to synagogue. And it was at a time when peace was making major advancements in the region. We are on the verge of a possible Israel-Saudi Arabian peace and normalization agreement. And the Iran-led radical access with Iran and Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis, who are also involving themselves in this conflict, will continue to derail any opportunities at peace so long as they are still able to operate. And so what became clear after October 7th is that Israel can no longer strike, in a show of force, build some deterrence, neutralize some capabilities, and go back to a tenuous ceasefire. What became clear is that Hamas cannot be allowed to have any military capability, cannot allowed to have the ability to threaten Israel and Israeli civilians again. A country's first and foremost responsibilities for the defense of its citizenry. And so then the question is will the international community finally realize the folly? Will the Israeli decision makers finally realize that we cannot have ceasefires that just erupt into such attacks every 1, 2, 3 years like we've had over the last 17 years since Israel left the Gaza Strip in 2005. Israel left the Gaza Strip unilaterally. And what needs to be done, whether it's by Israel or what should be done, is with the help of the regional moderate countries, with the international community, is a collective effort to dismantle Hamas, to make sure it is no longer in control, in power, in Gaza, in the Palestinian areas, and make sure that the radicals cannot have the ability to derail any kind of positive chances, any kind of potential for peace and for coexistence, which there is in the region. But the radicals must be sidelined, must be neutralized, and must be dismantled.
All right. Major Dan Pfefferman, before I ask you my next question, there is something I would like to say. You believe the international community is being short-sighted when it's asking for a ceasefire. When 9/11 happened in the United States, the then US President George W. Bush said, "You're either with us or against us." But we have to recognize one reality here, that when thousands of innocent people are dying, we cannot reduce such a complex and sensitive issue to such reductionist binaries. It is perfectly possible and legitimate for people around the world, including myself, to be horribly pained by the butchering of the Israelis that happened on the 7th of October, to strongly condemn the Hamas terrorists for their barbarism, and also to be equally pained by the thousands of innocent Palestinians who have been killed in this war thus far. Going by the figures that we have, over 10,000 and counting, more than 4,000 of them were children. And I'll come to you in a moment to talk about the growing pressure on Israel to call a ceasefire, though I know that it's been ruled out by Prime Minister Netanyahu. But I have a different question for you before I go to our Indian guest. Your Prime Minister has said something interesting in his interview to ABC News. He says Israel will have the overall security responsibility in Gaza for an indefinite period after the war ends. Just 2 weeks ago, correct me if I'm wrong, your defense minister had said, we have no interest in controlling life in the Gaza Strip once this war is over. Is there a contradiction here between the statements of the defense minister and the prime minister? And what do you think the prime minister really means by this statement? Because questions are already being asked about who you're going to hand over Gaza to. Let's say, theoretically speaking, you do manage to finish off Hamas. And what would a quote-unquote complete victory for Israel really look like in this war?
Yeah, those are fantastic questions. First, there is pain and there is suffering on the Gazan side, and we recognize it. I would be very careful quoting Hamas statistics, but it's clear that there are many civilians killed. From the beginning of this war that Israel didn't ask for, Israel has pleaded. It has sent 20,000 phone calls, thousands of messages, spoken on the airwaves in multiple languages, including Arabic, of course, telling Gazans to get out of the zone of fighting. And Israel took 3 weeks before it did that. It opened humanitarian corridors. And what we see is time and again, Hamas is forcing at gunpoint, including shooting Gazans who are trying to escape the fighting area. Today, there is clear footage of many thousands of Gazans who have yet to flee the northern Gaza Strip or are going in the IDF-protected humanitarian corridor into safe zones. Israel absolutely needs to do everything it can, and I believe it is, to ensure that civilians are not being harmed. But any civilians that are harmed, it's important to recognize this is the fault and responsibility of Hamas. Hamas cannot be the governor of Gaza, wantonly and unprovoked attack Israel, and then claim it has no responsibility for the safety and security of Gazans. We actually can have a ceasefire. I think we can have a ceasefire within a day if something changes here, and that is Hamas hands over all of the 240 hostages that it is currently holding, including babies, including elderly people. It immediately surrenders itself. It doesn't have to be to Israel, maybe to some kind of international force, and gets out of Gaza. The fighting will be over tomorrow. Israel has no qualms with the people of Gaza. Israel has no claims over the territory of Gaza. Israel left Gaza in 2005. So the fighting can actually end tomorrow. There can be a ceasefire, but the pressure is being placed on Israel, the party that was attacked out of the blue on October 7th, and not on Hamas, the party that started the fighting and then is hiding under hospitals and behind civilians in order to try to maximize their casualties for its own PR purposes. I don't see a distinction between the quote from Defense Minister Gallant and Prime Minister Netanyahu. Israel really has no interest in maintaining control over the Gaza Strip, over the life of the Gazans. Again, Israel left unilaterally, every last settlement, every last soldier in the Gaza Strip in 2005 in an effort to spur peace, in an effort to make it very clear to the Palestinians and to the world, Israel has no claims over Gaza. Israel wants to live side by side alongside the Palestinians in Gaza, and we hope that we can have a peaceful future with them one day. It cannot be, it's very, very clear, and we were fooled and misled by Hamas. It cannot be as long as Hamas is around. What I believe the Prime Minister's words were that while we don't have any intention or interest in ruling the Gaza Strip, we might not have an option, at least as having the final say over the security, the short to midterm stability. The hope is that a much more moderate, a revamped Palestinian leadership with the backing of the international community and maybe Arab powers can take over, because Israel really has no interest in remaining in Gaza. And again, for the fourth time in this interview, and I can't say this enough to the international community, Israel left Gaza in 2005 for this purpose, but Gaza refuses to leave Israel alone.
All right. Let me now go across to Ambassador Suresh Goel. Ambassador Goel, you've heard our Israeli guest. The question I want to ask you is this. Even though Prime Minister Netanyahu has rebuffed all calls for a ceasefire, fact of the matter is there is growing international pressure on Israel. And if you look at what's been going on behind the scenes, it's clear that there is pressure even from its close ally, the United States. Just yesterday, President Biden spoke to Prime Minister Netanyahu to discuss the possibilities of humanitarian pauses in this fighting. This is an official statement released by the White House. So my first question to you is, how much longer do you think Israel can really, in a sense, continue to ignore this growing global chorus for a ceasefire? Because whether anyone likes to admit it or not, innocent people are dying in Gaza every single day. And two, has Israel set itself an unrealistic target? They say they want to finish off Hamas and this war will end only with a complete victory for Israel. What would that even look like? Can there be any such thing as a complete victory in a war such as this?
Good evening, Neha. First of all, to begin with, like you, I begin with mourning for the children and the grown-up and the civilian population, Israelis, first of all, who died in the attack. Barbaric is the word you used, and I completely agree with it. Who died in the barbaric attack by Hamas on October 7. Israel and India have been good friends. We have been working together on many things. I have been to Gaza, I have been to Palestine several times. I have studied the situation, both in terms of history and in terms of the UN resolutions. Therefore, I am particularly pained because the hopes, optimism generated by the Oslo Accords for peace in the region are now being totally belied. Okay, having said that, the question really now comes to whether it is possible and for a ceasefire at all. I doubt it very much, because I do see practically on a daily basis calls, obviously very well-intentioned calls from countries all over the world, including the European Union, USA, and everyone, to basically have a ceasefire or a pause in fighting to deliver the humanitarian assistance. The reason being given for ceasefire is to be able to deliver the humanitarian assistance.
Yeah.
UN keeps on trying for the humanitarian support and everything, but there are trucks going through the Rafah border, but whether it is being delivered, how it is being delivered, nobody knows. And second thing is, there are contradictions even in the call from the USA. On one day they say that yes, there has to be a pause. On the other day, Anthony Blinken says, no, if Israel were to actually do the ceasefire, there is a danger of Hamas grouping. I don't know about that part really. I'm not certain, because they are under great deal of pressure, but maybe. Therefore, I do not see any intention either on the USA side to enforce ceasefire from Israel, or to persuade Israel enough for a ceasefire, or any intention from Israel to have a ceasefire. Therefore, I am very skeptical about that, number one. Number two, by the way, on this side, I am of the view that if Israel wants to control activities of Hamas, they can do so. Was it yesterday or day before, when they actually sent the dog squad into the tunnels to get the Hamas out? I think that was very effective way of doing it, really, number one. As far as, sorry, your second question was, Neha, please do remind me.
Whether, you know, there can be any such thing as a complete victory for Israel, because by their own admission, they have been at the receiving end of this terrorism since, you know, the conception of the country. Are they going to be able to finish it over the next few weeks or months?
I doubt very much that if they were to go by the objectives they have announced to win the war, that is complete vanquishing of the Hamas, that is unlikely to happen. As I said earlier again, Hamas is a kind of an organization which is going to be very, very difficult to completely eradicate. You kill one, there will be people who actually go to the other countries. They're all over in the different countries, and they will regroup and they will start again doing it. And why do we forget that Hamas was actually encouraged, if not created, by Israel to take on PLO and the PNA?
Yes.
Because Hamas became...
That's an accusation that's leveled repeatedly against Netanyahu, that he actually covertly supported Hamas to create a divide within the Palestinians.
Absolutely. Therefore, I don't think that in the long term, Israel may completely give up on Hamas. They may find it useful again to be able to keep a control over the Palestinian politics. But to be able to achieve even the war ends are very, very unlikely. But when Israel says that they will keep security of Gaza under control, then clearly Gaza will be more like an occupied territory.
Well, if you ask the Palestinians, it's already been an occupied territory. It is described as the largest open-air prison in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Therefore, I think once Israel has been able to create its own security umbrella over Gaza, and they can be reasonably sure that they are able to control the activities of Hamas, they may call an end to the war. But then it will be like a penal colony, or it will be like open-air prison, or like a colony of Israel, so to say.
And that is at the heart of this conflict that has been going on for years and years, because the Palestinians look at it as occupation and colonialism. Okay, let me go back.
Absolutely.
Let me go back to our Israeli guest at this moment. Major Dan Pfefferman, I have two questions for you. Number one, you know, it is my job as a journalist to play the devil's advocate. Yes, what happened in Israel on the 7th of October was barbaric, to say the least. There can be no remote justification for it. However, the accusation that is now being increasingly leveled against Israel, one